All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. A few notes. A friendly reminder to please silence all cell phones. We don't want any distractions during the presser today. And additionally, we have a workspace set up in the Sun Conference Room, which is located directly off to my right, your left, where that open door is right there. We'll start with opening remarks from the general manager for Stanford Football, Andrew Luck, who will then introduce our interim head football coach, Frank Reich. Then we will open it up for questions. At this time, I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Appreciate it, Brian. Nice to see a lot of familiar faces. Good afternoon to everybody. And I could not be more excited for our coaches, our staff, our players, for myself on a personal level, to have Frank Reich as our 36th head coach for this program in Stanford football's history. He's our interim coach for this 2025 football season. I know I experienced firsthand the incredible impact Frank demonstrated as a leader and have full confidence and conviction that he is the perfect steward for this season of Stanford football. He's a teacher, he's a winner, and a coach of the highest caliber. His values align seamlessly with our vision, with my vision for this program, and I know he will maximize the on-field potential of our players, our student athletes, and at the same time will serve as an incredible role model, mentor, and leader for their personal growth. I have to say, I called Frank last week, and he was shopping at a Costco in Greensboro, North Carolina, and thankfully he answered the call. We chatted, and we chatted again some more and made this right, but it fills me with joy to announce and to share with y'all that Frank Reich, the interim head coach for Stanford Football. Awesome. All right. Let's do it.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. I want to begin by first thanking President Levin. Had a nice meeting with him when I was here, just so impacted by him and just hearing his vision and just getting to meet him personally. And of course, thank you to my fellow competitor and friend, Andrew Luck, and for this opportunity. I could not be more excited. Andrew's the ultimate competitor, ultimate teammate, ultimate leader, and so to be able to join him and helping him fulfill his vision for this program is an incredible, exciting opportunity for me. But most of all, I want to thank my wife, Linda. Us coaches, we know that the coaching journey is an interesting one. There's a lot of moving, and so we have an incredible partnership. We've been married almost 39 years, and we partner together in life, vocation, ministry, and everything we do. So thankful to her and her blessing to come and fulfill this opportunity. Talking to Andrew, the objectives are crystal clear for this 2025 season. First of all, come in and work with these coaches, and I'm excited to do that. It's been 2 days. They're quality coaches, quality men, quality coaches. I can feel that the second I met with them. And so I'm going to give them everything I have, nurture, prepare. We'll make each other better and bring every ounce of football energy and leadership that I can bring to the coaching staff. But ultimately, it's about helping to teach the players to prepare, practice, and perform at an elite level. That's what we're here to do. Secondly, the second objective is to help, as I already mentioned, help Andrew fulfill his vision for this program, bring Stanford football back into prominence. And the one thing that I really appreciated, and it's probably maybe the thing that made me come out here, is that we both agreed that this interim label does not mean a step back. It does not mean hitting the pause button. It means we're moving forward. And the seeds of what can be a long-term vision can be planted this year as far as culture, as far as performance, and as far as winning football goes. And that's our plan and that's our objective. And then thirdly, third objective is this is not, for me personally, at 63, what an incredible opportunity for me to grow as a person, to come to one of the most prestigious universities in the world, to interact with the students, the faculty, the other coaches, the alumni. Looking forward to that. I know that's going to be a very rewarding experience for me. You know, I also know that I not only want to grow personally, but I'm here to help others grow, and particularly the players. I can't wait to dig down into their personal lives. I've always had this mantra, like many coaches, a better man makes a better player. And so that'll be our objective. We'll coach the whole person. We'll coach the whole person. And then lastly, I would just say on a personal note, this is just interesting, got the call from Andrew, and then just sitting down and talking with my wife, Linda, and talking with 3 daughters, Leah, Avery, and Hannah. As we sat there and I explained to them after Linda and I talked that I was going to come and do this, interestingly enough, they were like, Dad, what are you doing? You know, I mean, you've had almost, counting your college career, you've had almost 40 years of football, of great success, playing and coaching, 6 Super Bowls, comeback things, million winning seasons. You've played with the best. You've coached with the best. And I told my family, the mission is very clear. After almost 40 years, it's going to be my personal mission and my belief that 2025 season can be the most rewarding one yet. I can't wait to get started and to get started with my friend and these players and these coaches. It's going to be a very rewarding experience.
All right, we'll now open it up to questions. Please raise your hands. We'll have mics on either side of the room, and we'll find you.
Hey, question for Frank. Ben Parker from CardinalSportsReport.com, Rivals Network. Just curious to kind of get your thoughts on making the adjustment from a lot of time coaching in the NFL game to the college game. What are things you can take from the NFL experience, and what are some differences that you expect? Yeah.
From a football standpoint, I don't really expect a big difference. I mean, the standard here is going to be the standard is elite. I mean, we're trying to be the best, and Andrew's made that easy on me. Okay, so. Normally, a head coach of a college program like Stanford, you have a whole lot of other responsibilities off the field. My focus is football. Andrew said, come here and coach these coaches and coach the players. Andrew's going to assume a lot of the things that maybe a normal head coach would have to take. He's going to take those responsibilities for the time I'm here as a head coach, and that's one of the attractive things about it.
I'll answer a little bit of that as well. I think good football is good football. Frank certainly is a learner, and it's part of what I loved playing for him, is that I felt like he was always learning, the players are always learning, all the coaches are learning. There are rules in college that are different, absolutely. He'll get caught up to speed on those. But I think that the foundation of good football translates to any level, Pop Warner, high school, college, the NFL. And I know that's part of what the excitement our players are feeling, our coaches are feeling, and I'm feeling.
Ben, thank you for doing that. Just a reminder, I forgot to include your name and the affiliation you're with. You nailed it, Ben. Congratulations. Right up here.
Hi, Ron Krajcik from the San Francisco Chronicle. Frank, congratulations.
Thank you.
Curious, when you were at that Costco and the phone rang, what was your thought? When you saw there was a vacancy at Stanford, knowing Andrew's position, did you think this was a possibility, and what were you doing otherwise? I mean, if this didn't come up, would you have tried to go back into coaching?
No. As much as a great experience I've had in the coaching world, honestly, my wife and I sat down after the Super Bowl this season. You know, I had been offered several other positions in the NFL at various different degrees and levels. They weren't the right fit. I told Linda going into this hiring cycle, I would only consider something if it were the right person and the right place. That was our clear vision. After this football season, after the Super Bowl ended, we're moving on in our life. And then obviously the timing of this was different. And so when Andrew called, it was the right person and it's the right place.
Luca Mazzi with Stanford on SI. For Coach Reich, even though you've only been here for 2 days, is there a specific part of Stanford or Palo Alto or the Bay Area that you have connected with?
I think it's a little early for that, but no, it's not early for this. It's only been 2 days, but the people that I've met in 2 days, the quality of people, getting a chance to sit down with the coaches at length, the players. I've had a chance to interact with some of the other staff. As I said, my visit with the president, in the 15 or 20 minutes that we spent together was incredible. So it's really about people for me, ultimately.
Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle Bonnegar with ESPN. Andrew, the timing here is unique, right? And I'm wondering, when you are moving on, did you think about trying to find a permanent coach before settling on the interim, or what was the kind of the thought process there in terms of how do we move on and what's the right direction to go?
Yeah, the timing certainly is unique. That's absolutely one way to describe it. It's non-traditional, and yeah, I think what I realized, when I started thinking, all right, we got to move forward. What's best for this program? What's best for these kids? What's best for our coaches on staff? Because they have a lot of belief with these kids, a lot of belief with the coaches, and of the sort of options of how you move forward, not necessarily who you're moving forward with, but how. It became more evident to me as I really sat and thought about it that the ideal situation was an interim for this season, right? That could come in and like Frank said, not take a step back, but keep moving forward. Look, I have, when I show up at work every day, I think, how do I do right by our kids? How do I do right by the people in this program? And when Jay Green, one of our upperclassmen safeties, called me, and we didn't quite exactly know what was going on yet. And it hit me. I said, Jay, this isn't the NBA, man. Like, we're not tanking for the first pick in the draft, right? We need to win. We need to win this season. We need to take steps forward. This could be the last football season for many seniors of their career. So this, of the options, is it a long-term coach? Is it interim? Is promote from then? This schema, the heuristic around this coach was what I wanted. I thought was the best option, and Frank was the best option for this schema as well. And so it worked out. I think I was walking around with my fingers crossed and toes crossed for like 4 days, hoping this was going to work out, because I think it's a way for us to move forward. I think in all the right ways.
Hi, guys. Matt Lively, CBS Sports Bay Area. It can be for both of you, but is there a world where at the end of this first year, Frank, if you really like this position, and Andrew, if you like what he's done, that this is more than a one-year stewardship?
There is not, and that was maybe the third sentence, that came out of my mouth, and then the response was from Frank. It was like, "That's perfect. My life is not this year is what works for my life. This year is what works for Stanford football. It's part of." And it reaffirmed why Frank was the first call for me. It reaffirmed why I loved playing for Frank, because our relationship, certainly as quarterback, play caller, head coach, when we were working together in Indy, when we were successful, it's because we were direct, transparent, and honest, and we knew where we stood. And I knew that if this was going to work, because it is a unique situation, it is odd timing, right? We needed to step on. The first step needed to be 100% transparency from both sides about how this would go this year, and he's here.
And I would just add to that. Going back to the players and the coaches. When I sat down with them and met with them yesterday, we didn't skirt around that issue. We went right up and said, this is unique. Let's embrace it together. This can be something to remember. This can be very special. 2025 can be a special season. This is what we were both looking for. This is the perfect scenario for both of us. It fits absolutely perfect. And just because it's a one-year deal does not mean that we can't take a major step to helping fulfill this vision, have massive success in what that looks like, in the whole picture of success, not just the immediate ways that come to mind, but the whole picture of success. And I feel like in the 2025 season, I can make an impact to go in that direction.
Josh Schubaugh with Associated Press. One for each of you. Frank, when you took the job in Indianapolis, 2018 was also unusual circumstances. The way you had a staff that you inherited, you didn't like you do here. How did that experience? Maybe how is that going to help you in this adjustment here?
Yeah, it definitely helps. And you have to be nimble. You have to be able to adapt. Thankfully, in both cases, I was going to amazing organizations who had good people in place. And honestly, when I came here, Andrew told me the staff was very good. He said, much of the staff is younger. After one day of meeting with them, I said to Andrew, you underestimated how good this staff is. I didn't say it in those words, but I know they're young, but I feel really, because that's honestly, as the head coach, that was honestly, that's a big question, because it's hard to go in and you're normally bringing, quote unquote, your guys in. But we came in saying, and we told the staff, listen, we're going to, sometimes you earn trust. We're starting with, we are trusting each other. We're together. Let's go make this a special year.
And for Andrew, when you took this job, how aware were you of the reports in Detroit? And then what changed from July to March, when you guys made the decision, other than that they became public?
Yeah, so I served on a committee adjacent to our board, so I was made aware that there was investigations and wrapped up sort of very superficial level last summer. And then when I took the job as part of my onboarding process, the whole thing, I was briefed on the matter. And part of my role certainly has been assessing this program from the day I took the job. And I think out there, even a week and a half ago, I thought the direction for our program was different than where we are now. But with time, like on many things, and new data points and a deeper and new perspective, realized it was time for a reset at the head coaching position. And while perhaps the timing is non-traditional, it was the right time for this program and for us.
Hi, Andrew. Joe Fonzie, KTVU. How are you?
Great.
Just a couple of questions. We all know the positives that this institution has, but as you've described, it's a very unique situation. And now, given the transfer portal and NIL and all that, is there a stigma that you kind of have to overcome right now, given the unique timing and all those kinds of things, to convince people that they want to come here?
We got a lot to prove here. We got a lot to prove as a football program, and I'm fine with that. That's awesome. Look, I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel like there was alignment and support from our university. From our athletic department, from other coaches, from other folks. I mean, as evident, who's in the room right now. So, look, maybe not stigma. I'm not sure, but I'm well aware of what I hopped into. We need to go out and win. We need to go prove we can win. I still believe we are an incredibly unique institution. We are different than every other, and we're proud of that. And we're playing the game. Revenue share. We're in it. We're here to win. We're here to compete. Part of what I love about this place is the ethos. The pursuit of excellence matters, right? Competing at a high level matters. Our president wants that. I want that. Coach wants that. Our players want that. Everybody in this room, everybody in this building wants that. So yeah, we got to go prove it. Yeah, we got to go win. Yes, we're playing the game with everybody else, and I know that our locker room feels that. You don't want to have losing seasons. No one wants that. You didn't come here to do that. And I know out on the recruiting trail, the transfer portal, the change in college, that we are we in a perfect place? Absolutely not. But I know we're set up really, really well to adapt to changes, to hold on to our core values, to go win football games and make our university, our community very proud of what we're putting on the football field. Yep.
Two questions, Ron again from the Chronicle. For both of you first, can you give an example of your history that why you guys connected obviously so well in Indy that you would reunite here? What about that relationship in Indianapolis made this moment possible?
I'll start if you don't mind.
Please.
And there's a lot that goes there. I think of examples. I came back to that 2018 season. It was coming off of a year missed to injury, and there was a part of me that wondered if I ever would play football again, if I'd ever find the joy, whatever that was, and I did, and I got to do it with Frank, Nick Sirianni, Marcus Brady, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, there's a cast of characters, if you will, from that year and a half of my life that hold deep meaning for me. And so deep that after that season, my wife and I just celebrated our 6th wedding anniversary yesterday, and celebrated is way too strong of a term because I definitely forgot it. And to be fair, she forgot it as well. Our brother-in-law reminded us, and she called, or it was 2 days ago, sorry, she called from the road. And I thought, Frank married us, right? We had our wedding somewhere else. We came back. We went to City Hall. And there was like way too much of a process in Indiana. I was like, I know someone I think who's like an ordained minister at some point in his life. Let's call Frank up. So, so Frank married Nicole and I, and working together. Again, I didn't know if I was going to play, but Frank preached trusting a process and trusting getting better every day. I tried to embody that, and we did. I mean, we'd worked. I mean, I think I remember that training camp. Like, by the time the season had rolled around, I don't think I'd thrown a pass more than 40 yards. Like in practice, I didn't know if I could, but we just kept trusting our process. We got to the point where eventually we had a pretty magical season, and did some really good things. And like Frank's a football coach and from a football family, and obviously has had this incredible career, an incredible coaching career. And like his team meetings, like in one of the first team meetings in Indianapolis, he brought up Emil Zatopek, right? Emil Zatopek was a Czechoslovakian runner, an Olympic runner. Like, my wife's Czech, my wife's family from Czechoslovakia, escaped to the United States. Like, I know who Emil Zatopek is. Like, I'm going to buy that book after that team meeting. So it's stuff like that Frank, I think I connected to a lot of how the paradigm through which Frank saw the world, saw football. I felt like I grew more than I ever had as a quarterback, as a leader that year, through tough times and through good times. And that's part of why I had it's why he was the first call, honestly, when I started getting to, all right, let's move forward. And it's what I know he can help our coaches and players sort of feel a lot of that as well.
Yeah, and I would echo the love that we have for the process. Being in a highly competitive field where results are really what we're measured by, that we both are wired the same way, that we know that to get the results that we want, the process has to be right and the people have to be right. And so that season when we started 1-5, I told anybody whoever I could ever talk about this with, how do you come back from 1-5 and win 9-10 and win a playoff game and be the one team in the league nobody plays, when you have players that embody that 1% better every day, 1-0 mindset. And I'd never been around a guy who embodied that like Andrew. And so from a football perspective, we just clicked. As fellow quarterbacks, watching him play and lead was the thrill of a lifetime as a coach. But then off the field, what I really appreciated about Andrew, although we were both extremely wired and competitive and want to win at everything we do, there was another side of Andrew that knew everything. One had other interests, and I'm very much wired that way as well. And so we could connect on a personal level off the field as well.
My other question is for Andrew specifically. You mentioned revenue sharing. That could become more real next week, as you know, with the House settlement. Stanford's already sort of said that they're prepared to, as you said, sort of play that game. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? What will Stanford do? What can Stanford do to be active in the revenue sharing world?
Absolutely. No, we're preparing for it. And I think if the House settlement doesn't go through, then who knows what college football looks like in a week. So we're preparing it like everybody else. We're same rules as everybody else, the same salary cap. Our athletic department and in our university, we have our allocations to different sports like everybody else. Certainly part of my job is making sure we're fundraising and creating new revenue streams and make sure that this is a model that works here. But we're well aware that to compete, to be at the highest level, that we do have to play that game, and I know we're going to play it in a way that resonates with us as an institution, with our athletic department, and who we are as a team. Yeah, and excited about it. And it's part of steps forward in college football, right? And look, I don't think anybody thinks what the 2025 sort of season structure looks like for college football is going to be the structure in perpetuity. Like there's still a sea of change. But like, I know, a couple things are certain. We got to go out and win. We got to go out and play darn good football, get people excited about Stanford football here in the Bay.
Luca Mazzei, Stanford on SI. So I was wondering, what do you think some similarities and differences are going to be between your relationship on the field and in the office?
He's the boss. I was the boss the last time, but I can do that for one season maybe.
Ditto.
Oh, hi, I'm Dan Kubota with the Stanford Daily. My question is, in the time you're going to be here in a year, like, what are your specific goals, especially given all these players exiting after Troy Taylor's firing?
Yeah, I'm not sure all the players exiting is necessarily a statement with the most fidelity to what's going on. I'm really proud of our locker room. Certainly, the transfer portal is a reality for all schools. We have an amazing group of guys. We get to get out on the field today and practice, which I'm looking forward to. And look, our goals haven't changed. I remember coming here. Look, I committed out of high school. When I committed to Stanford, it was to a team that had gone 1-11 the previous year, and hadn't beat Cal in a while, and hadn't been to a bowl game in a while. So we have goals as a team. We need, our seniors want to go out and beat Cal. We want to beat Cal. We want to go win a bowl game, right? That's important to this program. We do as Coach said. We're not here to take steps back. This isn't we have no intention to be an also-ran season. This has the potential to be memorable, special, and that's what we're working for.
Kyle Bonneger with ESPN again. Recruiting is obviously much different with an interim too.
Yeah.
So how much more involved in that process do you have to be, knowing that you'll be the person who's here, when the class is on campus?
No, the recruiting question is absolutely part of the equation. For every decision that you make in college sports, I'm certainly realizing that and realized that day one, last December. I've been way more involved in recruiting, since I joined than probably a traditional general manager would, and that's also part of just the setup of our structure in the office. So look, we're not taking a step back in recruiting either. I think our young men out there that are tough, that are bright, that can play good football. I'm certainly this institution endures. I mean, this is the best school in the world, and it'll stay that way. And those young men know also that I'm here and providing that continuity for them. And we've got a vision. I mean, shoot. Frank's here to help support that vision and push it in the right direction, and we'll keep that going. That doesn't stop, that doesn't change.
Coach, welcome. John Platz, Stanford Football Basketball Radio Network color analyst. Question helps Stanford supporters get to know you better. Not every double-digit player in the NFL decides to go into coaching. Why did you decide to go into coaching, and who have been your influences, either to go into coaching or along the way?
Yeah. First, my mom and dad. My mom and dad were both coaches, high school coaches. My brother's a coach. I just come from a coaching family. We're just wired. They were high school teachers, coaches. I love teaching. Like Andrew said, that's ultimately what I want to do. Teach and inspire. And that's just always mostly come through football. So in the coaching world, I played for Marv Levy. I played for Bobby Ross, coached under Tony Dungy for a year. So I've been around some really elite coaches to really get the philosophy of coaching I have, and that is that it's all about the process. It's all about getting smart, disciplined, tough players because they keep figuring out ways to get better. And so as a coach, it's exciting and invigorating to be around people who are always looking to get better. And I think that's probably the thing more than anything that keeps drawing me back to this profession.
We'll go to Ron up here in the front.
You've mentioned a couple times that interim was the way to go, that you decided that. Why? How seriously did you consider hiring a permanent coach, and why did you ultimately decide that this was the best structure?
Yeah. The timing's obviously a part of it, as referenced before. And I thought of, and I explained this to our players as well, at least those that I was talking to throughout spring break. There's answering two questions. I think I was trying to answer two questions. What's best for this 2025 football season? Because I owe it to these guys. This is we're not laying down, right? This isn't a give up year, right? We have to step forward. We have to move. And what's best for the future of Stanford football? What's best for the longevity of Stanford football? And I realized, that answer may be the same, or the answer might be two separate things, but a two separate answer can be right? And so when I sat and thought about it, including timing, about what I owed the guys in the locker room now, what I owe the guys in the locker room next year, et cetera, I thought that getting an interim here to help invest in the staff, because I believe in them, in this locker room today, because I believe in them, that the interim just made more sense. It made more sense for our direction. It made more sense for where we want to go. And look at, it's no secret I'm pretty green on the job, right? It's been a couple months, right? There's a lot more I also like to figure out, and system and structure, and how to do this thing and how to get better at this thing, right? That made me think, yeah, interim is the best, and really it's the best because Frank's here too, right? Like the people do make the answer work, and Frank is making this answer work. I've got a lot to learn from Frank. I can't wait to, pick his brain on a lot of this. But and again, I think the structure, as I kept thinking about it, not even at an intellectual level, but like interim this year, like something felt right about it instinctually, and I make sure I'm trying to listen to that as well.
Ben?
Question for Coach Reich. Over here. Sorry, Ben over here. Just curious, what are the main things you most want to emphasize with the team as you begin spring practices happening any day? Just what are the main points of emphasis you want to kind of emphasize with during the spring ball period as you start that up?
Yeah. Well, that's an outstanding question, and I'm not going to go into the detail of that, but yesterday in the first team meeting, we detailed that and made it crystal clear. And, we went over what our 7 standards will be for the 2025 season. And those are standards that every player and coach is responsible to know, embody, and embrace. And we covered those in detail yesterday, and with a lot of excitement and passion around them. And, it was very rewarding to me to be speaking to a group of men that I could feel their energy. I mean, as we were going through them. Coaching is so much about, especially when you have the right environment in the people in the room. Listen, even these guys at the professional level, but even these guys, they know 90% of what you're telling them. They've heard it before. But it's a matter of emphasis, it's a matter of execution, and it's a matter of the right culture and teamwork and chemistry to do it together. And it's a matter of a lot of trust. So that's really what we were trying to create. So we went through each standard, and we talked about how we were going to hold each other accountable, how we were going to measure those standards, how we're going to hold each other accountable to those standards, and really believe that can be a foundation not only for this program, but for them in their personal lives as well.
Kyle?
Yeah, I expect a lot of us will be back in this room at some point in the not too distant future. Obviously, you can't have that dialed in on when the next permanent coach will be here. But what can you kind of outline what that process will look like in terms of when you expect to really dive in on that, and then if there's a perfect world, what does that look like in terms of timing? Yeah,
it's we're hiring a coach after the season. I feel like I just finally came up to breathe some air, Kyle. So I'm gonna take a few breaths and maybe half a victory lap for a second, and then get into all right, what's our process look like as we move forward. But again, we're all in on this season, and that's what our players feel, that's what our staff feels, and when the time is right, we will be working on the process for what's next.
Luca Mazzei, Stanford on SI. So Coach Reich, being on a campus with a lot of other great athletic programs, are there any specific teams that you'll be watching closely or supporting?
I'm glad you asked that, yeah. Well, having daughters that were Division I swimmers, I walk by the pool, I walk by the aquatic center every day. In fact, I was walking by this morning and talking to my one daughter and flipped it on to FaceTime. So I said, any desire to hop back in that pool? No, I will. And then Andrew, thankfully, actually right before we came here, there was a coaches meeting, all head coaches meeting. And so I popped in there and, there's 30 coaches in there. And so I had a chance to meet them, be introduced to them. And Andrew's a fan as well of the other sports. And we've already talked about the fun we'll have just personally as friends going and watching some of the other sports as time allows for me serving in the role that I'm in. But I certainly am a swimming fan. I definitely am a swimming fan.
We've got a staff outing for the baseball Sunday game. I know that, and I know a big chunk of our team will be breaking the attendance record at Stanford Stadium for college softball on April 19th. Did I get that right? Yeah, good. Had to get the plug in for Jess and the gals on the team. That's good.
we have any other questions for Coach Reich or for Andrew?
Hi, guys. Ashley Adamson. I guess I'm here as a friend of Kyle Smith. I'm not here in any other official capacity. Andrew, I know you said you walked into this job, eyes wide open. You knew what you were jumping into, but I also can imagine it's been a wild couple of months. What's the biggest thing you've learned?
Yeah, it's been a trial by fire, certainly, in many ways, and thankful for that. Opportunity to grow, opportunity to learn. I'm most appreciative of the folks, the people. I think we got a bunch of good people up in that football wing. We got a bunch of good people in this athletic department. We have a president and provost who I think deeply care about our university and all aspects of the university. And I feel that. And I think maybe this echoes one of the themes of today, the people theme. It learned people matter. And they matter a lot. And I'm thankful to be surrounded by great people. It's part of what gives me an incredible sense of optimism for what we can do as a football program, both this year and in the future.
Hey, Coach. Troy Clarity, Stanford Football and men's basketball play-by-play, Cardinal Sports Network from Learfield. Great to have you on board here with us. Being that this is a one-year thing, how does that kind of potentially change or maybe affect the dynamic of how you might approach some things from a game management standpoint? On game day, does that make you perhaps a bit more, apt to be a bit more aggressive perhaps in some situations? How could that potentially affect things that we might see on Saturdays?
Great question. It won't affect it because we operate according to certain principles, and one of those principles is I'm naturally pretty aggressive in calling the game and in managing the game, and that aggressiveness comes from a belief in the players and the coaches. However, we won't be reckless. We're measured. We have a measured aggressiveness. We understand a man of wisdom avoids all extremes. We're not going to be hey, we're going to be aggressive, and then you're just going out there just to prove a point that you're not afraid. Well, that's not very smart. That's not very smart. So we want to be calculated. We want to be measured, but we want to be very direct and assertive in our aggressiveness at the right times. And that'll come through the confidence that we gain through preparation, through execution. As we see the coaches and players handle the situations, as we, teach each other to be ready for those situations and, not to fear those situations, but play to win in every situation.
Awesome.
You both made passing references to the staff. Frank, will you bring in any coaches, or is the whole staff returning, or what's the plan there?
No, Andrew made it clear that, hey, he's got confidence in who is here. There's no additions. I'm kind of thankful for that, even though there's some great people out there who I know I could bring in, but that also makes it more complicated. So I'm excited with the staff that is here. We got everybody we need in the boat, and we just got to start paddling all in the same direction.
Luca Mazy, Stanford on SI. So Coach Reich, although Stanford hasn't won too many games in the last couple seasons, you guys have won a lot of big games. So how do you kind of plan on keeping that tradition of beating some really good football teams?
Get 1% better every day. I said to the players yesterday, if we commit to doing that, if we commit to become the best at getting better, if we can understand what it means to commit to being the best at getting better, then there is no limit. And when you fill up a room like this and you take the cumulative effect, if one person does it, it's great. But if you get everybody in the room doing it and you have the cumulative effect of that, amazing things can happen. Amazing things can. I've experienced it personally many times as an individual and as a team. And so that's my expectation. I don't want to get the cart out in front of the horse. I understand it's not easy, but I'm also very optimistic because I have a sense of the quality of the players that are here, what they want for this season. And if they're ready to commit and go all in, I've already assured them I'm all in for this season, and together we can have a very successful season.
All right, we're going to go over here for the last question.
This is a question for both of you. Aaron Wilson with Cromford in San Francisco. When it comes to the team, being that we've kind of talked about it being a one-year thing for the foreseeable future, and you talk about wanting the guys to be able to commit to getting better and commit to turning this program around, how hard of a challenge do you think that will be for you as a coach and you as a general manager, obviously, with this school, understanding that when players are with a new coach and you know that there's a deadline possibly for them being here, they may or may not be willing to completely buy in. How are you guys able to kind of get them to get the right mindset?
I think it's a fantastic question. One I think a lot about. One, our players see me a lot, and they know that there's a level of continuity with me and their teammates and a bunch of what's going on. And the reality of college football is that it is changing every day, right? It is changing every day. So that, look, Frank doesn't have to worry about it. In principles and values and culture and taking a step forward, that's enduring and that'll last. And that's what we're feeling. And that's what we're preparing for, that Frank's here, staff's here. We're doing something that'll last in many ways. And that's part of why I have deep conviction that this will work.
That's well said. I'm not going to add to that.
Thank you.
All right, well, that will conclude our press conference for this afternoon. Thank you so much for coming. And Andrew and Frank, before you guys leave, if you could stand up, hold the jersey one more time for some last-minute photos. Thank you, everybody. Go Stanford.